So today we'll start with part 3 of Indian Constitution, that is fundamental rights. Before going into fundamental rights, everyone has to by heart all the fundamental rights from Article 13 to Article 35. What are those? There will be direct questions that we will pick up from that article itself. So we'll start discussing that component. Part 3 of Indian Constitution. Part 3 of Indian Constitution. If you look at part 3, they start from Article 12 to Article 35. All articles we have to remember. Article 12 to Article 35. What does it contains? Article 12 and Article 13. Article 12 speaks about definitions of state. It defines what is state first, what incorporates state, and defines what is law, and it defines what is law. It defines what is state, it defines what is law. Next. After that, we have how many fundamental rights? 6 fundamental rights. They are first Article 14 to Article 18, Article 19 to Article 22, Article 23 and 24, Article 25 to 29, 25 to 28. Then we have Article 29, 30, and then there are saving of certain laws. Article 31, we have to save certain laws regarding to certain actions. Then Article 32, which is also a fundamental right. And then Article 33, 34, 35. So first division is like this. So all the people all have to remember all the fundamental rights. So up to 51A, everyone should by heart. So how to by heart? In this class course, we'll start with this component, the fundamental rights component, part 3. Article 12 to Article 35. Article 12 to Article 35 deals with it. So Article 12 and 13 speaks about the state and it speaks about the law. And then it speaks about Article 18, Article 14 to 18, 19 to 21, 19 to 22, 23, 24, 25 to 28, 29, 30, 31 is separate, 32 again a fundamental right, 33, 34, 35 are again restrictions on fundamental rights. You can consider that also. So these are the things that we have. So first of all, how many rights are there? Article 14 to 18 is the first fundamental right that we possess. That is called right to equality. Right to equality. Fundamental right to equality. (19 to 22) right to freedom. Right to freedom. 23, 24 right against exploitation. Right against exploitation. Right against exploitation. Next, Article 25 to 28, right to freedom of religion, right to freedoms of religion. And then Article 29 to 30, cultural and educational rights. They are about cultural and educational rights. They speak about cultural and educational rights. And then we have Article 32, right to constitutional remedies. Right to constitutional remedies. Article 31, Article 33, 34, 35. They can be remembered as the restrictions. They can be remembered as 31 is certain laws to give effect to DPSPs. Certain laws to give effect to DPSPs. 31A, 31B, 31C. 33 is right of Parliament to amend this. 34 is what happens when there is martial law. Martial law. And 35 is conferment of these rights on citizens. Or again, this can be one limitations on which it can be said. So 33, 34, and 35 and 31 can be considered as some restrictions on the fundamental rights that we have. So these are the things that we have. So how to remember? First, Article 12 to 35. 12 and 13 is basic. First of all, rights. What are rights? Rights are claims of the citizens against the state. If state is taking away these things, you can go on, you can be challenging that. So rights are restrictions upon the state so that individuals will be having the so-called their own claims. Now, in order to restrict that, first you have to define what is state. What is state? State ని restrict చేయకుండా ఉండడం కోసం హక్కులు ఇచ్చినప్పుడు అసలు స్టేట్ అంటే ఏదో మనకు ఫస్ట్ డిఫైన్ చేయాలి. సో కాన్స్టిట్యూషన్ మేకర్ స్టార్ట్స్ హియర్ ఇట్సెల్ఫ్. First they defines what is state. Now, how the state can restrict the individual? State can restrict the individual in number of ways. For example, the police can say some order or some rule, or the so-called the collector can tell you some rule, or government can make an order, or parliament can make a legislature, or state can make a legislature. So, our local authorities can tell you anything. So, for that, first they define what is state and how the state will restrict you. State can restrict you by giving the terms of laws. So, in the form of laws, the state can restrict the individuals. So, this is what they say. Laws which restrict cheyochu kabatti what they make is they make sure that laws are not restricting any of these fundamental rights. So, like this, first state ante enti, chattam ante enti anesi define cheస్తారు. After that, we have the so-called right to equality, right to freedom, right against exploitation, right to freedom of religion, cultural and educational rights, right to constitutional remedies, right to equality, right to freedoms, right against exploitation, right to freedom of religion, cultural and educational rights, and the so-called right against right to constitutional remedies. These are the six fundamental rights that we have. In the original constitution, however, you have another right that is called right to property. In the original constitution, you have right to property. Hence, in the original constitution, you had 7 fundamental rights, but today they were reduced to 6 fundamental rights, which means one fundamental right was taken away. One fundamental right was taken away. According to which constitutional amendment this right was taken away? 44th constitutional amendment. Very, very important. According to which constitutional amendment? 44th constitutional amendment, 1978. 4 plus 4, 8, 1978. So this is not Indira Gandhi government which has taken away, right? This is what we have to remember. Indira Gandhi government anukuntam gani Indira Gandhi did not touch the so-called fundamental rights of the people. Rather, it was subsequent government which has taken it away. So, right to property, 44th constitutional amendment, 1978. They have removed this 7th fundamental right, that is called right to property, as a fundamental right, and they made it as a constitutional right under Article 300A. They introduced Article 300A, and this is made as a constitutional right Constitutional right, later they have given provision as statutory right also. So right to property is a constitutional right as well as it becomes a statutory right today. So constitution లో ఉంది కాబట్టి కాన్స్టిట్యూషనల్ రైట్ అంటాం, స్టాచ్యూట్ దానికోసం ఒకటి ఉంది కాబట్టి స్టాచ్యూటరీ రైట్ అంటాం. ఈ విధంగా ఫండమెంటల్ రైట్స్ నుంచి తీసుకొచ్చి కాన్స్టిట్యూషనల్ రైట్స్ లో వేశారు. తర్వాత స్టాచ్యూటరీ లాస్ రైట్స్ కూడా అంటాం. సో 300A you have both statute as well as constitutional right. But the rest of the things that you have is all these 6 fundamental rights. The rest is 6 fundamental rights that we have. So everyone should remember all these 6 fundamental rights. Right to equality starts from 14 to 18. 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. 14 to 18 is right to equality. Next, 19, 20, 21, 21A, 22. 19, 20, 21, 21A, 22. All these are right to freedoms. 21 అయిపోతే 23, 22 is got. 23, 24 right against exploitation. 24, 25, 26, 27 and 20, 27 and 28. 26, 7, 8, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. 28 is up to the so-called freedom of religion. 29, 30 is constitutional, cultural and educational rights. 32 is this. The next step that we have to remember is we have to remember all this. ప్రతి ఒక్క దాంట్లో ఏమేమి ఉన్నాయనేసి. సో ఫస్ట్ థింగ్ ఈస్ దిస్, స్టేట్ అనేది డిఫైన్ చేస్తారు, లా అనేది డిఫైన్ చేస్తారు. నెక్స్ట్ దే విల్ రిమెంబర్ వాట్ ఈస్ 14 to 18, 19 to 22, 23 to 24, these things. Now this is the duty of everyone to know all these fundamental rights by heart. ఎక్కడ ఏం అడిగినా కూడా చెప్పేటట్టు ఉండాలి. Questions will be directly picked up from this. So initially in the original constitution 7 fundamental rights are there. Now they have made it as 6 fundamental rights. 1978 44th Constitutional Amendment Act has taken away right to property as a fundamental right. So we are left with the 6 fundamental rights today. Now let's start discussing about what are those fundamental rights before going into in-depth analysis of each and every article. So if you take right to equality, it starts with 14, 15, 16, 17 and 18. It have 5 provisions. So how to remember? First, in the Bare Act index page, starting index page itself, we have to remember that. So Bare Act index page, everyone remember that. Then we will come inside the Bare Act. So 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So Article 14 speaks about equality before law. Equality before law. So this is what they have given. So Article 14 speaks about equality before law. Next one is prohibition of discrimination. Prohibition of discrimination. Prohibition of discrimination. Next, provision of equality of opportunity. Equality of opportunity. Next, abolition of untouchability. Abolition of untouchability. And last is abolition of titles. Abolition of titles. So equality before law, prohibition of discrimination, equality of opportunity, abolition of untouchability, abolition of titles are the first fundamental rights of right to equality. Right to equality, these are the things. Now how to remember all these rights? How to remember all these rights? This is the next thing. I'll tell you a code, remember this. Law, equality before law. D, prohibition of discrimination. O, opportunities. U, untouchabilities. T, titles. Law removes all doubts. Law removes all doubts. So this is the code. Law removes all doubts. Law removes all D-O-U-B-T. Law removes all doubts. T is discrimination, O is opportunity, U is untouchability, BT is abolition of titles, BT is abolition of titles. So law removes all doubts. So this is first thing. Law. Article 14 is law. Article 14 is law. 15 is discrimination, prohibition of discrimination. 16 is provision of equality of opportunities, abolition of titles, abolition of untouchability, abolition of titles. Like this. You have to remember all this. Law removes all doubt. Law ante Article 14. Article 14 says what? Equality before law. This is what they say. And then 15, 16, 17, 18, 18. These are the things. DOUBT. Next thing is right to freedoms. Right to freedoms. So second one is right to freedoms. Law removes all doubt. First thing, equality. Next, right to freedom. Now, what are the rights that we have under right to freedom? We have the following rights. We have right number 19, 20, 21, 21A, 22. 19, 20, 21, 21A, 22. 21A, మర్చిపోతాం మధ్యలో 21A is there here. Now, what does this speak about? 19, 20, 21, 21A and 22. Next, 19 speaks about freedoms, certain freedoms. There will be 6 freedoms which will be granted. Certain freedoms of individuals like speech, expression, speech and expression, assembly, association, profession, residence, and movement. Right, these things. Next, 20.
Protection in conviction of offences.
Certain rights in
Protection in conviction of offences.
protection against convictions in certain offences. Protection against conviction in certain offences. 21. Right to life and personal liberty. 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 And then 21A, right to elementary education. Right to elementary education. And 22 is right against arrest and detention. Right against arrest and detention. So these are the freedoms. So first, Article 19, 20, 21, 22 speaks about the so-called certain freedoms. Article 19 speaks about certain freedoms that can be entrusted to the so-called individual. There are 6 freedoms. Freedom of speech and expression. Second one is freedom of assembly, freedom of association, freedom of movement, freedom of profession, freedom of practice and profession, right, and freedom of residence. These are the things that we have as far as 6 freedoms are considered. Next, right against conviction in certain offences. Right against conviction in certain offences. And then right to life and personal liberty. Right to life and personal liberty. Education, that is free and compulsory education. Right to free and compulsory elementary education. After that, you have right against arrest and detention. Right against arrest and detention. First is law removes all doubt. Law, DOUBT. Law, DOUBT. Law removes all doubt. And it gives 6 freedoms and clear protections. 6 freedoms and clear protections. Code will be one more thing here. It gives 6 freedoms and clear protections. CLEAR. Clear is the code. 6 freedoms and clear protections. Now 6 freedoms means Article 19 speaks about 6 freedoms. Clear. C. Conviction in certain offences. L. CLEAR. Life and personal liberty. CLE. Education. AR. Right against arrest and detention. Right against arrest and detention. So Article 19 speaks about freedoms. The 6 freedoms of Article 19. 6 freedoms. 6 freedoms and clear protections. Law removes all doubt and provides 6 freedoms and clear protections. C, clear 20, conviction, life and liberty, education and arrest 22. Arrest to 22. Right against conviction, right to life and personal liberty, right to CLE, right to education, and right against arrest and detention. So there are first to five in the so-called right to equality. Law removes all doubt and gives six clear protections. And gives six clear protections. Six and six one freedoms, protections. Clear, CLEAR. Clear means these things. CLEAR ante okate. Like this. So law removes all doubt and gives six clear protections. Now, what are the six freedoms under Article 19? Freedom of speech, freedom of speech and expression, freedom of assembly, freedom of association, freedom of movement, freedom of residence, freedom of profession. SAAM. Sam resides in Poland. Sam resides in Poland. SAAM. Sam resides in Poland. Profession. So this is the code. Yes, freedom of speech and expression. A, freedom of assembly, freedom of association, freedom of movement, freedom of residence, freedom of profession. Sam, SAAM. Sam resides in Poland. Article 19 code is Sam resides in Poland. Freedom of speech and expression. A, freedom of and second assembly or association. Assembly, freedom of assembly, freedom of association. M, freedom of movement, resides in Poland. Freedom of residence, and P means profession. Sam resides in Poland in the code. So law removes all doubt and gives six clear protections. That six is Sam resides in Poland. SAAM, Sam, మళ్ళీ SHYAM, Sham అని గుర్తుపెట్టుకుంటే అయిపోతుంది. SAAM, Sam resides in Poland. Sam resides in Poland. Next, right against protection. Law removes all doubt and gives six clear protections, but we find exploitation of traffic children everywhere. But we find exploitation of traffic children everywhere. So, Article 23 and 24. Article 23 and 24 speaks about right against women trafficking, forced labor, and beggar. What is Article 23? Prohibition of traffic. Prohibition of traffic in human beings. Prohibition of traffic in human beings. Huh? Forced labor. And forced labor. Freedom of traffic in freedom against traffic in human beings and forced labor like beggar. And forced labor, freedom of traffic in human beings and forced labor, and prohibition of employment of children in factories. In factories, prohibition of employment of children in factories. Prohibition of children in employment of factories. So, prohibition of traffic in human beings. Remember, we find traffic children everywhere. Right, traffic children will be begging, right, like this. So law removes all doubt and gives six clear protections, but we find exploitation of traffic children. Exploitation means a right against exploitation. Right, exploitation of traffic children. Code is exploitation of traffic children. Exploitation of traffic children. Exploitation of traffic children is the word. Exploitation means right against exploitation. Many times asked, which among the following are right against exploitation? 5 కిందకి పైకి ఖచ్చితంగా రాస్తాం. 23 is traffic, 24 is children. Exploitation of traffic children. 23, 24. Traffic is right against prohibition of traffic in human beings and forced labor. 24 is prohibition of employment of children in factories. Prohibition of employment of children in factories. Again, I am saying exploitation lo rendu untai. Definitely will confuse 23 ida 24 ada anesi. Traffic children is the code. So this is 23 and this is 24. This is 23 traffic children, 24. Next, right to freedom of religion. The right to freedom of religion. What are the two rights that we have under freedom? What are the rights that we have? Article 25, 26, 27, 28. Now 25 speaks about
Freedom of conscience,
freedom of conscience,
profession,
freedom of profession,
practice,
freedom to profess, practice, and propagate one's own religion. Freedom of conscience, freedom to profess, practice, and propagate one's own religion. So, freedom of conscience. So, నీ conscience కి నీకు freedom ఉంది. Government cannot come and stop your conscience. మనస్సాక్షికి నీకు ఉంది. So, freedom of conscience, freedom to profess, practice, and propagate one's own religion. Next is
manage
freedom to manage religious affairs. Freedom to manage religious affairs. Freedom to manage religious affairs. And then 27, freedom from payment of certain taxes. Freedom from payment of certain taxes. So religion purpose కోసం కలెక్ట్ చేసినటువంటి అమౌంట్ taxes కట్టవలసిన అవసరం లేదు. Right? Freedom from payment of taxes. Freedom from payment of taxes and freedom from attendance of religious instructions. Religious instructions. Freedom of attendance. Freedom from attendance of religious instructions. So you have these four: freedom of conscience, freedom to profess, practice, and propagate one's own religion. Next one is freedom to manage one's own religious affairs, freedom from payment taxes, and the so-called last one is freedom from attendance and freedom from attendance of religious institutions. So కొన్ని religious instructions ఏమైనా ఇస్తే నేను I have freedom whether to follow it or not అనేసి. These are the things. So how to remember? Common man evades tax attendance. So tax payment చేయడు అన్నట్టు గుర్తుపెట్టుకునేది ఒకటి. Common man tax attendance evades tax attendance. Law removes all doubt and gives 6 clear protections. But we find exploitation of traffic children and common man evading the tax attendance. So common man ఏం చేస్తుంటాడు? Children exploit చేస్తుంటారు ఇండియాలో, common man tax evade చేస్తుంటారు అన్నట్టు. So remember, like a story you will be remembering. So common man evades tax attendance. Common means con. So common man evades tax attendance. Common man evades tax attendance. So common man, con means freedom to concise, profess, practice one's own religion. Man means freedom to manage religious affairs. Tax, freedom from payment of taxes. Attendance, freedom from attending some religious instructions. 25, 26, 27, 28. 25, 26, 27, 28. This is how they have been organized. So like this, we have to remember them. So 25, 26, 27, 28. 25 is freedom to confess, practice, profess, practice, and propagate one's own religion. Second one is freedom to manage freedom to manage one's own religious institutions. On man, tax, freedom from payment of certain taxes, and freedom from attendance of religious instructions. Freedom from attendance, freedom of attendance, right? No attend avanakarledu. Next, 29 and 30. 29 and 30 speaks about the so-called cultural and educational rights. They speak about cultural and educational rights. So, what is 29? 29 speaks about
protection of interest of minorities.
29 speaks about
protection of interest of minorities.
Protection of interests of minorities. Next.
Rights of minorities to establish and administer educational institutions.
Rights of minorities to establish and administer their own educational institutions. So how to remember 2930? Remember minority institutions. Minority institutions. So protection of interests of minorities. Protection of interests of minorities. Minorities institutions. Next 30 is right of minorities to establish and the so-called administer their own institutions. So 29 is protection of rights of minorities. Minorities యొక్క హక్కుల్ని కాపాడుతూ 30 మాత్రం క్లియర్ గా చెప్తుంది protection of interests of minorities, rights of minorities to establish and administer their own educational institutions. So minority educational institutions అన్న రూల్ పెట్టుకోండి. Minorities is protection of rights of minorities to establish and administer their educational institutions. To establish and administer their educational institutions. So just you can remember in that way, that is called minority institutions. Minority institutions. So these are the fundamental rights that everyone has to remember. Fundamental rights that everyone has to remember. Right. Article 32 is constitutional remedies. Article 32 is constitutional remedies. 31, 33, 34, 35 can be considered as limitations on the parliament. Limitations on the so-called fundamental rights. Fundamental rights absolute కాదు, ఇవి క్వాలిఫైడ్ అనేసి చెప్పాలి అనుకుంటే ఈ ఆర్టికల్స్ ద్వారా కూడా మనం రెఫర్ చేయొచ్చు. 31, 33, 34, 35. 31, 33, 34, 35. So these are limitations. Clear, guys? First, it defines what is state, what is law. State and law. Article 12 and 13. 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Law. Equality before law. Removes all DOUBT. Prohibition of discrimination. Equality of opportunity. Prohibition of untouchability. Abolition of titles. DOUBT. So 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. After that, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Next, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. What? We have the so-called freedom of right to equality, right to freedom. Right to freedom. 6 CLEAR. CLEAR. AR ఒకటే ఉంటుంది అక్కడ, BT ఉన్నట్ల AR ఉంటుంది ఇక్కడ. 6 clear protections. So 6 అంటే 6 freedoms. What are the freedoms? Sam, SAM, Sam resides in Poland. Yes, freedom of speech and expression, freedom of assembly, freedom of association, freedom of movement, freedom of residence, freedom of profession. Freedom of profession. This is the first one. 19, 20, 21, 21A, 22. 20, 6 clear, C. Right? Right against conviction in certain offences. కొన్ని offences లో నీకు conviction కి you'll get some rights. So 20 class 1, class 2, class 3 అని ఉంటుంది, that will come. 20 is this. Next one is 21. Right to life and personal liberty. 21. Right to life and personal liberty. మర్చిపోయేది ఏది? 21A we will forget. 21A is right to freedom, right to education. Right? So right to elementary education for all. Next, arrest. Right against arrest and detention. Arrest and detention lo ఏం చెప్తుంది? So 19, 20, 21, 21A, 22. 20, 19 is 6 clear freedoms. Clear, C. Conviction, L. Life and liberty, E. Education, AR. Arrest. This is the next thing. But we find exploitation of traffic children. Exploitation of traffic children. So exploitation. So the next article. Exploitation means Article 29 and 30. Article 23, 24. Article 23 and 24. right against exploitation. Now, 23 speaks about traffic children, prohibition of human trafficking and forced labor or begar. So, prohibition of trafficking in human beings and forced labor. So, trafficking అనేది prohibition చేస్తున్నాం. Prohibition of employment of children. Traffic children అయిపోతుంది. 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. Freedom of conscience, freedom to profess, practice, and propagate one's own religion. Manage religious affairs, freedom to manage religious affairs of one's own religious affairs. Freedom from payment of taxes, freedom from attendance of some religious instructions. So, common man, tax attendance. Common man, CON అనేది ఒకటి, MAN, common man అన్నట్టు గుర్తుపెట్టుకున్నట్ల. సో, man, manage of religious affairs. C అంటే కాన్ అంటే ఏంటి, కన్ఫెస్. Man, manage religious affairs. Tax, freedom from payment of taxes. Attendance, freedom from attendance, tax attendance. Next one వచ్చేసి minorities. Minorities interests are 29 and 30. What is minorities? Minorities institutions. So, protection of rights of minorities. Rights of minorities to establish and administer their own educational institutions. Establish చేసుకోవడానికి, అడ్మినిస్టర్ చేసుకోవడానికి వాళ్ళ మైనారిటీ ఇన్స్టిట్యూషన్స్ కి హక్కులు ఉన్నాయి. తర్వాత ఆర్టికల్ 32 which speaks about right to constitutional remedies. Right to constitutional remedies. ఇక్కడ వరకు గుర్తుండాలి. Everyone should remember this. Clear? Next. After this, so there are some fundamental rights. I said 44th Constitutional Amendment Act. We have removed one fundamental right, that is called right to property was removed. Now look at this. There is 21A. 21A. A అని వచ్చిందంటే మధ్యలో వచ్చినట్టు ఇది. So 21A was added through 86th Constitutional Amendment Act. Year 2002. 21A was added through 86th Constitutional Amendment Act 2002. 86th Constitutional Amendment Act 2002. So ఇది మధ్యలో యాడ్ చేసింది మళ్ళీ ఇక్కడ ఈ ప్రొవిజన్స్ లో. This is the next thing that we have to remember. ఇవి గుర్తుపెట్టుకోవాలి ఫస్ట్. Clear? How many fundamental rights are there?
Six.
As of now, 6. First is right to equality. Second is right to freedom. 3, right against exploitation. 4, right to freedom of religion. 5, cultural and educational rights. 6, right to constitutional remedies. గుర్తుంటాయండి. ఈక్వాలిటీ కింద ఏమున్నాయి? DOUBT. ఫ్రీడమ్స్ కింద CLEAR. ఎక్స్ప్లాయిటేషన్, ట్రాఫిక్ చిల్డ్రన్, కామన్ మ్యాన్, ట్యాక్స్ అటెండెన్స్. కామన్ మ్యాన్, ట్యాక్స్ అటెండెన్స్. నెక్స్ట్ మైనారిటీ ఇన్స్టిట్యూషన్స్. మైనారిటీ ఇన్స్టిట్యూషన్స్. క్లియర్? క్లియర్ ఎవ్రీవన్? Abolition of untouchability is which act? Which fundamental right? Abolition of untouchability.
Right to equality.
Abolition of untouchability का अर्थ क्या?
Right to equality, Article 17. Right to equality, Article 17.
Next, abolition of untouchability. So right, so direct గా ఇక్కడ ఇచ్చాడు. Abolition of untouchability ఏది? Right to equality. Right to equality. Many times ask this question. దీని కిందకి వస్తుందా, దీని కిందకి వస్తుందా? Abolition of untouchability అంటే ఏమనుకుంటాం? నార్మల్ గా exploitation అనుకుంటాం. Right. But this is abolition of untouchability is equality. Freedom from payment of tax attendance. Freedom from payment of certain taxes.
Right to freedom of
religious freedoms. Okay. Right against arrest and detention in certain cases.
Right to freedom, Article 20.
Right to Article 22. Right against arrest and detention in certain cases. Right to life and personal liberty. Right to life. 21. Right to freedom. Arrest and detention. Article 20.
Conviction.
Right against conviction in certain offences. Right against conviction in certain offences. 22.
Arrest and detention.
Arrest and detention. Right against arrest and detention. Minority rights.
Cultural and educational rights.
Cultural and what are those articles?
29,
29, 30. 29 is
29 is protection of interest of minorities.
30
30 is right to minorities to manage their religious institutions.
to manage their own religious institutions. Right. Next. Right against exploitation. Right against exploitation.
Article 20.
Article
24.
23,
24.
24. What are those?
Trafficking children.
Okay.
Traffic and children.
Traffic and children. Okay. Traffic ante right against human trafficking and forced labor. Prohibition of human trafficking in human being and forced labor and children. Traffic children. Right. This is the first bit. Next. So this is the first important thing that you have to remember. After that, we'll go in depth of each and everything, and then we have to study ఒక్కొక్క ఆర్టికల్ చూసుకుంటే వెళ్ళాలి. బట్ దీని నుంచి క్వశ్చన్ అడిగే ఛాన్స్ ఉంది ఫస్ట్ ఫండమెంటల్ రైట్స్ లో. So before going into that, so fundamental rights, please open Lakshmikant once. I'll ask you to underline few aspects. Lakshmikant. Fundamental rights are enshrined in Part 3 of the Constitution, first paragraph. Very, very important. Inspiration from USA Constitution, Bill of Rights. Underline inspiration from US Constitution, Bill of Rights. US Constitution, Bill of Rights. Next. Described as Magna Carta of India. Next paragraph, first line. Described as Magna Carta of India. Magna Carta of India. Then there is notes. Magna Carta ante enti. So look at the note. First point. Magna Carta is the Charter of Rights given by King of England John in 1215. This is the first written documents relating to fundamental rights. The first related document to fundamental rights is Magna Carta. Magna Carta is released by King John 1215 lo England ki sambandhinchina vyakti. So this is the first document of fundamental rights. This is the thing. So these are the three: Constitution of India, Bill of Rights. This is the one. Next. Third paragraph. What they have given: fundamental rights are meant for promoting the idea of political democracy. Underline idea of political democracy. See, democracy in India can be social, economic, and political democracy. Social and economic democracy is through DPSP. Social, economic, సామాజిక ఆర్థిక ప్రజాస్వామ్యాలు కావాలంటే డిపిఎస్పిలో ఉంటాయి. రాజకీయ ప్రజాస్వామ్యం కావాలి అనుకుంటే ఫండమెంటల్ రైట్లు ఉంటాయి. పొలిటికల్ ఈజ్ ఇన్ ఫండమెంటల్ రైట్స్, social and economic is in the DPSPs. So that is the thing. So here idea of political democracy. Next. In short, they aim at establishment of what? A government of laws, not government of men. Government of laws, government of men. Rule of law ni ఇది ఇంట్రెస్ట్ చేస్తుంది అని. Men అయితే ఏమవుతుంది? That already I said. Lex is rex, rex is lex అనేసి. Right, in first class. So this is making sure that lex is going to be rex. So చట్టమే రాజు అనే విధంగా తీసుకొని వస్తుంది. Government of laws, not of men. Next. Already I said 44th Constitutional Amendment Act 1978, right to property was deleted. Features of fundamental rights, very, very important guys. Features of fundamental rights. First thing, some of them are available only to citizens, some of them are available to both citizens and foreigners. Now, which are the rights which are available only to citizens? Citizens ki maatrame labinchetu evi. Remember, 15, 16, 19, 29, 30. 15, 16, 19, 29, 30. 15, 16, 19, 15, 16, 19, 29, 30. These are only to citizens of India. Only to citizens of India. The rest of the things are applicable for all. So some of them are only to citizens. Say, Ravi. Some of them are only to citizens. What are the to citizens? 15, 16, 19, 29, 30. 15, 16, 19, 29, 30. 15, 16, 19, 29, 30. Only to citizens or only to foreigners and citizens? Only to citizens. Only to citizens. Only to citizens. Okay. Here 15, 16, 19, 29, 30. Meeta vanni kuda andariki. Just remember that. You know what is 15? What is 15?
Right, discrimination in the
Discrimination. D. 16.
equality of offers.
19.
Certain freedoms provided by state.
29.
Minorities.
Minorities. 30.
30 minority institutions.
Minority institutions. Minorities, right? So with అప్పటి మిగతావన్నీ అందరికీ కూడా ఉంటాయి. ఫ్రీడమ్స్ ఆఫ్ సిటిజన్స్ కి ఉంటాయి, బయట వాళ్ళకి ఉంటాయి. దిస్ ఇస్ ద థింగ్. సో సర్టెన్ రైట్స్ ఫస్ట్ పాయింట్. సమ్ ఆఫ్ దెమ్ ఆర్ అవైలబుల్ ఓన్లీ టు సిటిజన్స్, సమ్ ఆఫ్ దెమ్ ఆర్ అవైలబుల్ టు ఆల్ అన్నారు కదా. దేర్ రాసుకోండి, అక్కడ పక్కన రాసుకోండి. 15, 16, 19, 29, 30. రైట్ బిసైడ్ ఇట్. 15, 16, 19, 29, 30 ఓన్లీ టు సిటిజన్స్. Second, very important, fundamental rights are not absolute, they are qualified. Not absolute, they are qualified. Not absolute, qualified. Which shows that they are not absolute but qualified. Main question this is.
31, 33, 34.
31, 33, 34, 35 shows they are not qualified. Not absolute, they are qualified. Apart from that, 19. 19 low class 2, class 3, class 4, class 5, class 6 speaks about restrictions. So 19 class 1 speaks about freedoms. 19 class 2, class 3, class 4, class 5, class 6 speaks about restrictions. So ఈ 5 plus 3 8 రాస్తే 15 మార్కులు వస్తాయి మనకు అట్లా. 15 marks question this is. How you can ensure that fundamental rights in India are not absolute but they are qualified అంటే 19 class 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and the so-called 31, 33, 34, 35. So this we'll discuss when we come to that. So they are not absolute but they are qualified. Next. Third one. Rights are against the state's action. Rights are available against the state's action. If private individuals, there is no constitutional remedies, but only ordinary legal remedies. Ordinary legal remedies. So, if the rights are violated by the state, what you have? Constitutional remedies. Are they private persons ki now violate their rights? Legal actions. Now, what is this? What is the difference between them? Take for example, right to life and personal liberty. If a state is making a law, and if it is arresting you, so chattamina nira arrest cheste, state police is coming and arresting you, then police represents the state, then you can go to the so-called Supreme Court and High Court against constitutional remedies. So they are against the state and entity. Directly Supreme Court ka High Court kelachchu. If this fellow is trying to kill me or if he has attacked me, and either attack chesaru, this is personal. So when he is attacking me, I cannot go to directly Supreme Court and High Court saying that my personal life and liberty is in danger here. I have to go to the police. Police will take me to the local court to High Court, High Court to Supreme Court. Right? Such way the this is the thing. So this is called legal remedies. So this is very important. States' action only are violated by the private individuals. They are not constitutional remedies. There are no constitutional remedies, but only ordinary legal remedies. Underline third point. When the rights that are available against the state's actions are violated by the private individuals, there are no constitutional remedies, but only legal remedies. Arthamainda that meaning arthamainda legal remedies maatrame untai. Next. Seven. They are not sacrosanct. Parliament can amend them. They are not sacrosanct. Parliament can curtail, repeal, them. Eighth, they can be suspended during emergencies. National emergency time suspend cheychu. So no need to underline next points. Just have a look at this. 9th, 10th, 11th. No need to underline. Point 9 says the scope of operation is limited by Article 31A, saving of certain laws antunadu. 31B, violation of certain acts and regulations. Validation of certain acts and regulations included in 9th schedule. Article 31C, saving of certain laws, giving effect to certain directive principles of state policy, which means these are certain limitations on Japan in the case. Next is 33. The applications of the members of armed forces, paramilitary forces, intelligence, and analogous services can be restricted or abrogated by Parliament. 33 and armed forces restrictions. Next, the application restricted while martial law is in force. 34. Next, 35. The worst of them are directly enforceable, while some of them are enforced on the basis of laws made for giving effect. Such laws can be made only by the Parliament and not by state legislature, so that uniformity throughout the country is maintained. So these are the things that we have to remember. Right guys, basics ఇవి. So what are the basics that we have to remember? ఎక్కడి నుంచి తీసుకున్నారు? Bill of Rights. Magna Carta అంటే ఏంటి? First document that was conceived in order to maintain about fundamental rights. 1215 లో. దీని తర్వాత ఏం చెప్పాను? Fundamental rights are not absolute, but they are qualified. ఇంకా మిగతావన్నీ కూడా ఏమన్నా ఇండివిజువల్కి అయితే you do not have constitutional remedies, you have legal remedies. These things. Okay. These are the things that we have to remember. Articles remember చేసుకోవాలి, ఇవి remember చేసుకోవాలి. Basics are this. Next is we'll go with the definition of state. State అంటే ఏంటి, ఏం కదా? These are the things that they have given. So we'll start with state and law. Now open the Bail Act. ఇప్పుడు Bail Act open చేయండి. Now open the Bail Act, Article 12. Fundamental rights, part 3, general definition. In this part, unless and otherwise requires, state ante enti? State includes government of and Parliament of India. It includes government of India, Parliament of India, government and legislatures of each state, government of the state, legislatures of the state, and all local and other authorities within the territory of India, local authorities and other territories within the territory of India, or under the control of government of India. All local authorities within the territory of India or within the control of India. So what does state include, guys? State and entity. State is, unless otherwise provides, state includes everything here. Parliament, government of India and Parliament. Parliament vere, government vere. State, government of states, state legislatures, and all local authorities and other authorities in which we have that jurisdiction, right? In which government has that jurisdiction or the union has this jurisdiction. All local and other authorities within the territory of India. Local authorities and other authorities. Now look at this. Local and other authorities. State and Parliament to Government of India, state legislature, government of the state, local authorities and other authorities. The first thing is, according to fundamental rights, is state given a wider representation, or is the term state is given a wider representation or a wider meaning or lower meaning? Chinna meaning ichara, state ante pedda meaning ichara. Wider meaning. Right. State ni wider interpretation lo chustam. Why it is given in wider meaning? Why it is given in wider meaning? State ante oka wider sense lo cheptaru ikkada. Small sense lo chepparu. Enduku గవర్నమెంట్ అన్న స్టేట్, గవర్నమెంట్ మామూలుగా అంటే ఏంటి స్టేట్ అంటే ఏమనుకుంటాం, government of India, government of state is called state అనుకుంటాం. But here what they are saying, government is a state, parliament is a state, state legislature is a state, government of the state is a state, local authorities is a state, any other authority which is directly under the control of government is also a state. Why state was given this much amount of power or this much wider interpretation? State ante idi ani peddaga define chesaru. It is not restricting the meaning of state, it is enlarging the meaning of the state. Why?
As to curb the arbitrariness of the state,
Look.
to protect fundamental rights.
Fundamental rights are against whom? Against the arbitrary actions of state. Arbitrary actions of the state అని చెప్పినప్పుడు, if the state కి చిన్న మీనింగ్ ఇచ్చారు అనుకో, స్టేట్ ఈజ్ నథింగ్ బట్ ద సో కాల్ పార్లమెంటరీ, స్టేట్ లెజిస్లేచర్ పొద్దున ఒక ఆర్బిటరీ యాక్షన్ చేస్తే. So, as fundamental rights are against the arbitrariness of the state, first of all, state has to be given wider term, so that once I define the, okay, these are all the authorities which are the states, they cannot come and they cannot create some arbitrary actions against me. సో నన్ను ప్రొటెక్ట్ చేసుకోవడానికి స్టేట్ కంటే ఒక వైడర్ డెఫినేషన్ ఇస్తున్నారు. వీళ్ళ నుంచి నాకు ప్రొటెక్షన్ రావాలని, కేవలం ఒకరు ఇద్దరు ముగ్గురు కాదు, మొత్తం అంత బ్యాచ్ కలిపి ప్రొటెక్షన్స్ అన్నట్టు. So they have given wider interpretation, they have not given narrower interpretation to the state. State ante government of India plus parliament, government of states plus state legislature, and state also includes local authorities and other authorities. So why this has been given a wider interpretation? Because no one of these shall take away the fundamental rights of the people. So ఒక్కడే అనేసి చిన్నగా చెప్తే వేరే వాడు వచ్చేసి ఫండమెంటల్ రైట్స్ తీసుకెళ్తే ప్రాబ్లం అవుతుంది. If I give less interpretation, what about the other institutions? If they take away the rights, that is going to be a problem. So state has to be given wider interpretation. State has been given wider interpretation. That is what one thing you have to understand. So Article 12, under Article 12, state was given wider interpretation. The same thing these are in DPSPs also. DPSPs lo first Article 36 also. 12 and 36 discusses about state. State has been given wider interpretation. Why wider interpretation? The reason is to ensure that there is no arbitrariness in making the actions and taking away the fundamental rights. This. So state ante enti? Government of India, Parliament, state, government of state, state legislature, and all other authorities, local authorities within India or within the jurisdiction of India. Government jurisdictions ekkadaithe unnayo anni chotla undayi that ఏంటివి states అనేటువంటి. Now, few points to be remembered is whether BCCI is a state or not.
No.
BCCI is not a state. BCCI is not a state. BCCI not state. BCCI not state. NCERT, National Council for Education and Research, and NCERT, Education, Research and Training. State or other? This is also not a state. It is an autonomous institution. So these two are important cases related to state. NCERT state agada and this one. BCCI and NCERTs. అప్పట్లో ఎయిర్ ఇండియా కూడా ఉండేది, ఇప్పుడు ఎయిర్ ఇండియా అట్లా ప్రైవేట్ ఇన్స్టిట్యూట్ అయిపోయింది. దట్ ఈస్ వై ఇట్ ఈస్ నాట్ ఏ స్టేట్. సో దిస్ ఈస్ టూ ఇంపార్టెంట్ యాక్ట్స్ ఆర్ సుప్రీం కోర్ట్ కేసెస్, BCCI and NCERT. BCCI is not a state, NCERT is not a state. For the Biswas versus Union of India అనే కేసు ఉంటుంది, based on that Supreme Court has said, and NCERT versus Union of India అనే కోర్టు ఉంటుంది. So BCCI is not a state, NCERT is not a state. These two you have to remember. So పక్కన రాసుకోవచ్చు BCCI and this. Next, Very, very important. Article 13. Article 13, very, very important. Laws inconsistent or in derogation to fundamental rights shall be null and void. Laws and now what is law? Chapter. Laws that are inconsistent or in derogation with fundamental rights shall be null and void. So look at this. Laws inconsistent with or in derogation with fundamental rights. 13 clause 1, clause 2, clause 3, clause 4. Mala clause 4 clauses are there here. 13 clause 1, clause 2, clause 3, clause 4. The clause 1 says all the laws in force in the territory of India immediately before the commencement of this constitution, in so far as they are inconsistent with the provisions of this part, shall to that extent be till to that extent of such inconsistency be void. Now what does this mean? ఇప్పుడు వరకు అంటే రాజ్యాంగం 19 కమిట్మెంట్ ఈస్ కమింగ్ ఫ్రమ్ 1950. ఇప్పటి వరకు ఏవైనా చట్టాలుండి ఆ చట్టాలు గిన దీనికి ఉల్లంఘిస్తుంటే ఫండమెంటల్ రైట్స్ ఉల్లంఘిస్తుంటే అవన్నీ చెల్లవు. So all laws which are inconsistent with the fundamental rights so far at the beginning of the constitution, whatever that is in practice, if they are inconsistent with this fundamental rights, దీనికి inconsistent గా ఉంటే అవి immediate గా చెల్లవు. So 13 clause 1 says about laws which are inconsistent at the commencement of constitution. ఎందుకంటే అప్పటి వరకు కొన్ని చట్టాలు ఉంటాయి. పక్క పడేవా దానివల్ల అర్థం డస్ట్ వచ్చేటట్టుంది మనకి. So laws inconsistent or in derogation with fundamental rights shall be null and void. అంటే ఇప్పుడు ఏంటి ఫస్ట్ వచ్చేసి ఇప్పుడున్నటువంటి చట్టాలు ఇప్పుడున్నటువంటి ఏంటి when we are making this constitution there will be certain laws. So all that laws will prevail even after getting the so-called constitution, but if some laws are not inconsistent with the so-called fundamental rights, they will be null and void. So what does this mean? We are introducing this constitution in 1950. There are many laws that has followed previously. All that laws will be there, but that laws which are inconsistent with our fundamental rights before the commencement of the constitution shall be null and void. Constitution ki mundu మనకి ఏవైతే చట్టాలు ఉన్నాయో ఆ చట్టాలలో ఏవైతే ప్రాథమిక హక్కులను ఉల్లంఘిస్తున్నాయో అవన్నీ చెల్లవు అనేసి చెప్తుంది. So this is 13 clause 1. Now what does it mean? It has to be understood in two ways. First way is the laws which are present before this commencement of the constitution will be present even today. Only that laws which are inconsistent with these fundamental rights, they will be null and void, or they shall be void. This is the meaning. So laws which are inconsistent at the commencement of this constitution, which are in practice, shall be void. This is first. మరి కొత్తగా see this is about the laws. Now laws can be made by the parliament again. కొత్తగా పార్లమెంట్ చేసే అధికారం ఉంది. If parliament is making a law which is inconsistent with the fundamental rights, again they will be void. అంటే ఇప్పటి వరకు వచ్చినవి void అవుతాయి. కొత్తగా చేసేటివి if it is against the fundamental rights, it will be void. That is given in 13 clause 2. That is given in 13 clause 2. The state shall not make any law with the parliament which takes away or abridges the rights conferred by this part, and any law made in contravention of this shall to such an extent of contravention be void. So 13 clause 1 ki clause 2 ki difference arthamainda? 13 clause 1 and clause 2 difference you understood? 13 clause 1 is about the laws which has come from previous before. Yeah, మనకి ఇంకా కాన్స్టిట్యూషన్ రాకముందు ఏవైతే చట్టాలు ఉన్నాయో అవన్నీ కూడా ఉంటాయి. కాంట్రవెన్షన్స్ ఎక్కడ వరకు ఉన్నాయో అవన్నీ కూడా తీసేస్తాం. Clause 2 is new laws made by the state. So the laws 13 clause 2, the state shall not make any law which takes away or abridges the rights conferred by this part. So this is about this. So underline 13 clause 1 no, all laws in force 13 clause 1, all laws in force immediately before the commencement. Immediately before the commencement. Second, state shall not make any law. State shall not make any law which takes away or abridges fundamental rights. So up to here they define laws inconsistent or in derogation with the fundamental rights shall be null and void. Ivi chellavu ani cheptundi. 13 clause 1 says laws that are in force at the commencement of the constitution. The 13 clause 2 says state cannot make a new law to take away these fundamental rights. Now 13 clause 3, another important article, says about what is law then. వాట్ ఈజ్ లా? లా అంటే ఏంటి? నార్మల్గా ఏమనుకుంటాం, చట్టం అంటే పార్లమెంట్ చేసేది లేకపోతే స్టేట్ లెజిస్లేచర్ చేసేదే చట్టం అంటాం. సో పార్లమెంట్ అండ్ స్టేట్ legislatures are permanent laws. What about ordinary laws which are made by the so-called president and governor? Can they be considered as laws or not? What about the executive orders that is made by the so-called the executive authorities? Now look at this. Laws is made by the legislative wing. According to the so-called parliament, legislature undi, executive undi, judiciary undi. Law making power is to the legislature, that is parliament and state legislature. But there is one thing called ordinance making power of president and ordinance making power of governor. When they make ordinances, shall that be treated as a so-called law or not? That is the second question. The third question is, what if an executive is making a law? What if an executive is making a law? Legislature always. For administrative convenience, there is a concept called delegated legislation or a topic. What is delegated legislation? Normally, laws has to be made by the legislature, but at times, for administrative convenience, the executive authorities themselves can make certain orders, such as government GOs and government order or government notifications. Can they be said as law or not? Every time పార్లమెంట్ స్టేట్ లెజిస్లేచర్ చట్టం చేయనక్కర్లే. కొన్నిసార్లు ప్రెసిడెంట్ చేయొచ్చు, కొన్నిసార్లు గవర్నర్ చేయొచ్చు, కొన్నిసార్లు ఎగ్జిక్యూటివ్ అథారిటీస్ చేయొచ్చు. Whether they come under law or not, this is the thing. And what about the so-called the laws which are prevailing apart from these three things? కొన్నిసార్లు పార్లమెంట్, లెజిస్లేచర్, లేకపోతే ఎగ్జిక్యూటివ్, లేకపోతే ప్రెసిడెంటే కాదు, వంశపారంపరంగా లేకపోతే సాంప్రదాయంగా వచ్చినటువంటి చట్టాలు కొన్ని ఉంటాయి. What about that customs that we are following? Can that be said as law? Can that be said as law? సో సాంప్రదాయంగా వచ్చినటువంటి చట్టాలని మనం లా అంటామా, పార్లమెంట్ చేసిందని అంటామా, స్టేట్ చేసిందంటామా, ఎగ్జిక్యూటివ్ అథారిటీస్ చేసిందంటామా, ప్రెసిడెంట్ చేసిందంటామా, ప్రైమ్ మినిస్టర్ గవర్నర్ చేసిందంటామా? దిస్ ఇస్ ద క్వశ్చన్. సో అగైన్, విచ్ టైప్ ఆఫ్ ఇంటర్ప్రిటేషన్ ఇట్ విల్ గివ్ టు ద లా? Is it a wider interpretation or narrow interpretation?
Wider.
Again, it is a wider interpretation. Why wider interpretation? Same reason. లా అంటే పార్లమెంట్ చేసిందే అని చెప్తే, ఎగ్జిక్యూటివ్ ఆర్డర్ ద్వారా ఒక ఆర్డర్ పంపించేసి ఇఫ్ యు ఆర్ restricting your freedom, then that will be a problem. ఒక కస్టమ్ ద్వారా if they are restricting your freedom, that will be a problem. Even law has to be widely interpreted. Even law has to be interpreted. నువ్వు చెప్పిన లానే అనేసి, even if parliament is making the law, state legislature is making the law, president is making the law, governor is making the law, or a religious custom is making the law, or an executive is making a law, I have to consider all these people, and from your laws I have to give protection. So just like the state has got wider representation or wider interpretation, the constitutional makers have also given the meaning of law a wider interpretation. చట్టానికి కూడా ఒక పెద్ద మీనింగ్ ఇచ్చారు. That is what given in Article 13 Clause 3. అసలు లా అంటే ఏంటి? Look at that. Article 13 Clause 3. Laws in force includes laws passed by or made by legislatures or the other competent authority in the territory of India. అంటే legislature అంటే ఎవరు? Parliament and state legislature. Sorry. In article, unless the context otherwise requires, law includes any ordinance. Law ante enti? Ordinance, order, bylaw, rules, regulations, notifications, customs, or usage having within the territory of India. Law includes ordinance, order, bylaw, rule, regulation, notification, custom, usage having in the territory of India. Law enforcement means that is made by authorities. అన్ని కూడా లా కిందకి వస్తాయి. సో వెరీ వెరీ ఇంపార్టెంట్. లా అంటే ఏంటి? లా అంటే పార్లమెంట్ చేసింది ఇలానే, ప్రెసిడెంట్ చేసిన ఆర్డినెన్స్ లానే, ఎగ్జిక్యూటివ్ చేసినటువంటి బైలా, రెగ్యులేషన్స్, రూల్స్, నోటిఫికేషన్స్ ఇవన్నీ కూడా అలానే, కస్టమ్స్ గా ఉండేటువంటి కూడా అలానే, కస్టమ్స్ ట్రెడిషన్స్ గా వచ్చేటివి. So underline that. This is important. Law includes any ordinance, order, bylaws, rules, regulations, notifications, customs or uses having in the territory of India. Next, class 4. Nothing in this article shall apply to any of the amendments of this constitution made under Article 368. Nothing in this article shall apply to any amendments of this constitution made under Article 368. ఏమి ఇచ్చాడు అక్కడ పైన 1 అని ఇచ్చాడు. Look at the footnote 1. This is added through 24th Amendment Act 1971. 1971. Nothing in this article shall apply to the amendments of the Constitution which is under Article 368. What is this article? Nothing in this article shall apply. And what is this article that we are studying? 13. So when we are speaking about 13, if you are getting 368, that will not apply to it. Nothing in this article shall apply to Article 368 అంటే ఏంటి? నువ్వు చెప్పిన రూల్స్ ఆర్టికల్ 368 కి అప్లై అవ్వవు. నువ్వు చెప్తున్నావే ఈ రూల్స్ అన్ని ఏం రూల్స్ చెప్పావు? ఫస్ట్ రూల్, the laws which are inconsistent with the abrogate with the so-called fundamental rights shall be null and void అని చెప్తున్నావు. The laws which are inconsistent with the fundamental rights are null and void. This is what Article 13 is saying. Nothing in this article shall apply to Article 368 అంటే ఈ రూల్స్ అన్ని నీ దగ్గర వరకే. But Article 368, if it is coming, you have to give importance to Article 368. What does this mean? Article 368 speaks about constitutional amendment. By amending the constitution, if I want to abrogate any of these fundamental rights, I have the right to abrogate this. So Article 13 ఏం చెప్తుంది? You do not have the right to abrogate this అని చెప్తూనే Article 368 వచ్చినప్పుడు మాత్రం అబ్రోగేట్ చేయాలంటే చేయొచ్చు అనేసి ఇది చెప్తుంది. అంటే దాని మీనింగ్ ఏంటి? 13 clause 4 is giving the power of the parliament to amend the constitution including the fundamental rights. Fundamental rights amend చేయాలనుకున్నావు చేయొచ్చు, నువ్వు నీకేం ప్రాబ్లం లేదు అంటావు. లేకపోతే ప్రజలు ఏమంటారు? శంకరి ప్రసాద్ went to the Supreme Court in the year 1951 saying that my property is being taken away because right to property is a fundamental right. Right to property fundamental right. State is making an act and state is taking away my fundamental right. నా fundamental right తీసుకెళ్తున్నాడు, but according to Article 13 my fundamental right should not be taken away. So this was the first case, Shankari Prasad versus Union of India 1951 case. When his land was taken away by the so-called government under the so-called land reforms, he approached the court, Supreme Court, saying that right to property is my fundamental right. 1951 law, it was a fundamental right. It was my fundamental right. How could the state take away my right by making the law? Because according to Article 13 clause 2, state should not make a law to take away that fundamental right. Then Government of India answered to the Supreme Court that we have used not Article 13, we have used Article 368, which gives the power for us to amend the Constitution. Parliament can amend the Constitution. And Article 368 lo cheppindi. Now the debate was whether 368 can take away this or not. 368 provisions UCSH ante. Now Supreme Court has heard this Shankari Prasad case, and then Supreme Court has said, yes, what Parliament did is right. What Parliament did is right. Article 368 వచ్చినప్పుడు Article 13 కి తక్కువ ప్రిఫరెన్స్ ఉంటుంది. 368 you can do anything. This was a 1951 judgment in the Shankari Prasad versus Union of India. So from 1951 until 1967, the same stand was maintained. But again in 1967, whether the fundamental rights can be taken into or not, అనేది దానికి ఇంకో క్వశ్చన్ వచ్చింది. This time it was Golaknath. Now this fellow has approached the so-called Supreme Court saying that my fundamental rights are being taken away. And now Supreme Court again intervened here. And whatever the earlier judgment that it has given in the Shankari Prasad case, in the Golaknath case, what the court said, this is wrong. The court judgment is wrong. From now onwards, Parliament cannot take away the right. Parliament cannot take away the right. So first constitutional amendment చేసి ఏం చేశారు, 9th షెడ్యూల్ ఒకటి యాడ్ చేసేసి యూ కెనాట్ ఛాలెంజ్ ఇన్ ద కోర్ట్ అంటే రైట్ టు ప్రాపర్టీ నేను తీసుకెళ్ళిపోవచ్చు అని చెప్పారు. In the Shankari Prasad case, what has happened? Shankari Prasad went to the court to challenge that right to property is a fundamental right that cannot be taken away. Court has given judgment in favor of the union government and said that yes, Article 368, if it comes, Article 13 will be having relevance. So from 1951 until 1967, this was the stand of Supreme Court. But in 1967, there was one more person called Golaknath. He went to the court. Now Supreme Court reversed its earlier stand and it said that law means all the things, including the so-called Article 368. 368 good is apply avutundi annadi. Which means Even 368 cannot take away the fundamental rights. This was the stand. Indira Gandhi did not like this 1967. Hence, she passed 24th Constitutional Amendment Act. In the 24th Constitutional Amendment Act, she said that we are having Parliament has the power to amend this and we can do it as a So Indira Gandhi made that 24th Constitutional Amendment Act. And she has introduced this provision. Supreme Court judgment ఇలా చెప్పింది కదా. సో ఈవిడ ఏం చేసింది, ఈ 4th clause వచ్చేసి ఇక్కడ యాడ్ చేసింది. 13 clause 4 was added. Earlier 13 clause 4 was not there. Indira Gandhi included this. And she said that nothing in this article shall apply to Article 368. So Indira Gandhi, the moment she added this, what does this mean? She is bringing this back to the so-called Shankari Prasad case. So Supreme Court చేసిన తప్పు ఏ కేసులో, గోలక్నాథ్ కేసులో. So what she did, she has made it through 1971 Constitution, 24th Constitutional Amendment Act. In the year 1971, once this woman has made it, again people went to the court. This time Keshwananda Bharati, he went to the court and he has said that again this is against the fundamental rights. Fundamental rights in తీసుకెళ్ళిపోతుంది ఇది అని. In the Keshwananda Bharati case, Supreme Court said, 1973 judgment, what Supreme Court said? It said that it will again reverse the order that it has given in Golaknath and went back to the Shankari Prasad case. And it said in the Keshwananda Bharati case that what she did is correct. What Indira Gandhi did is correct. Parliament has the power to amend anything under Article 368. Article 13 cannot be a restriction to it. Hence, whatever she has added, 13 clause 4, that will be correct. 13 clause 4 ఆవిడ ఏదైతే యాడ్ చేసిందో అది కరెక్ట్ అని చెప్పింది. So 13 clause 4 stood it. So according to Keshwananda Bharati case, what does this mean? Nothing in this article shall be applied to Article 368, which means Parliament has the right to amend anything in the Constitution, including article, including this part 3. దీన్ని కూడా అమెండ్ చేసుకోవాలంటే పార్లమెంట్ చేయొచ్చు. Can you challenge in the court saying that this is against the so-called fundamental rights? Article 368 వచ్చినప్పుడు you cannot challenge because this is constitutional power. So in the Keshwananda Bharati case, court has clearly said that Parliament has two powers. One is constitutional amendment power. Second one is normal law making power. Normal గా చట్టాలు చేసి ఈ లాస్ ఇండియా తీసుకెళ్తే you can go and challenge. But if they are amending the constitution, how amending the constitution? Remove this right altogether and then make a law. If you are amending the constitution, then you cannot challenge that. This is what court has said. However, it included one more thing. Anni cheyochu, but not the basic essentials that is required here. So through this concept, what it said, Parliament has absolute power under Article 368 and చెప్తూనే basic structure doctrine ni ప్రవేశపెట్టింది Keshwananda Bharati case lo. And the court said these will be the basic structures that you don't touch, except that Parliament has everything. This is how Article 13 Clause 4 says. So Article 13 Clause 4 has three case laws. One is Shankari Prasad versus Union of India 1951, Golaknath case versus Union of India 1967, 24th Constitutional Amendment Act 1971, which has added 13 Clause 4, and then Keshwananda Bharati case 1973. Keshwananda Bharati case upheld 24th Constitutional Amendment Act, which has added 13 Clause 4 to the Article 13. As a result, today the status is nothing in this part shall apply to, nothing in this article shall apply to Article 368. It means Article 368 will have a preponderance over Article 13. By using Article 368, Parliament can amend any parts of the Article 13. Part 3 of Indian Constitution. The only thing is you should not touch the basic structure that was innovated. Up to here it was done. The rest of the story will be continued in DPSPs versus fundamental rights. Fundamental rights to DPSPs, so there was some tussle again. So ikkadagaithe ee moodu cases important. Remember that these are the three things that is present as far as 13 clause 1, clause 2, clause 3 is considered and clause 4 is considered. So what I discussed, state ante enti. What does state include?
Government, Parliament.
Government and Parliament of India. Government of India and Parliament of India. Parliament next.
State legislatures.
And
Government of
State government, state legislature, state government, state legislature, parliament, government of India, local authorities or any other authorities within the territory of India where India has used jurisdiction. 13, Article 13 speaks about laws. 13 clause 1. 13 clause 1.
Sir, all are the
13
all
clause
the
1.
past
All the laws which are made before the commencement of constitution.
Laws that are in force in the at the commencement of this constitution. Laws in force at the commencement of this constitution, which are in contravention or which are in abrogation to Article 368 to that part of our abrogation shall be void. Shall be void. ఎక్కడి వరకు అయితే అవి దీనికి వ్యతిరేకంగా వెళ్తున్నాయో అక్కడి వరకు వాయిడ్ మిగతావన్నీ కంటిన్యూ అవుతాయి అని అర్థం. 13 clause 2 దుర్గా.
Laws made after the commencement of constitution.
State shall not make any law to take away or to abrogate article any of these fundamental rights. If state is doing up to that part of contravention, that shall be void. Appu nunchi state cannot make any law. 13 clause 3 what it speaks? Defines law. What is the definition of law? Wider definition. What it includes? Laws is made by the parliament, state legislature, ordinance making power, bylaws, rules, regulations, notifications, customs, అన్ని ఏమైనా సరే గవర్నమెంట్ చేయవచ్చినా కూడా ఎవ్రీథింగ్ ఇస్ ఏ లా. దిస్ ఇస్ ద థింగ్ దట్ దే హ్యావ్ ఇంటర్ప్రెటెడ్. 13 clause 4
no nothing in this.
nothing in this article shall apply to article 368. ఈ చెప్పిన ఆర్టికల్ లో 368 కి అప్లికబుల్ అవ్వవు. 13 clause 4. Now it includes 13 clause 4 means nothing in this article shall apply to article 368 means article 368 దీనికి మినహాయింపు, which means 368 can amend this. And here you have which acts, which cases? Shankari Prasad versus Union of India 1951, where court has upheld that yes, they can amend the constitution. First constitutional amendment was done in order to take away right to property. And Jawaharlal Nehru knew that if I am going to take away right to property, you people will go to court because this is against the fundamentals. So what they did, Schedule 1 they have added, Schedule 9 they have added through first constitutional amendment act, and they have said that this cannot be validated. And they went to Shankari Prasad went to court saying that this fellow added a new schedule and he has taken away right to property. Right to property ఏమో ఇంత బాగా ఉంది ఫండమెంటల్ రైట్ లో, షెడ్యూల్ 9 యాడ్ చేసి దీన్ని ఛాలెంజ్ చేయకూడదు అంటాడు అని. Then what court said? What he did is correct. What he did is correct. You cannot come and challenge. So like that Schedule 9 remained. Schedule 9 అనేది వచ్చింది కాన్స్టిట్యూషన్ లోకి. మళ్ళీ సెకండ్ కేస్, సో దట్ ఈస్ ద థింగ్ దట్ దే సెడ్. సెకండ్ వన్ ఈస్ గోరఖ్నాథ్ కేస్ 1967. Unfortunately, court has changed the earlier verdict. Now, why court has changed the earlier verdict? By this point of time, 1951, first Shankari Prasad. This is 1967. 16 years has passed. By this point of time, by using Schedule 9, magistrates who are making the laws or parliament which is making the laws, they used to bring all the laws and they used to keep under Schedule 9. Ee law validate avadu, ee law validate avadu, ee law validate avadu ane sariki Schedule 9 was increasing, which means the fundamental rights were decreasing. So here Supreme Court was allowed that states are using this route to bypass everything. Hence the state has said, or Supreme Court has said, that the law is wrong. Even Article 13 applies to Article 368. So Article 368 will come under law. 368 comes under law. Ante enti even 368 chesina you cannot take away fundamental right. To overcome this, what Indira Gandhi did? 24th Constitutional Amendment Act was done in the year 1971, and she added this Article 13 clause 4. E provision added this in the No, again this was challenged in Keshwananda Bharati case. In the Keshwananda Bharati case, Supreme Court said that yes, what you did is correct. What you did is correct. Court has upheld Constitutional Amendment Act of 24th Amendment me uphold chesindi. Chestune em cheppindi, you cannot challenge the basic structure. You can change anything but basic structure ani. Judicial innovation ఒకటి తీసుకొచ్చింది. బై బేసిక్ స్ట్రక్చర్ అంటే ఏంటి? కోర్టు ఏం చెప్పింది? మీరు వస్తుండండి ఇట్లా గొడవ పడి నా దగ్గరికి చెప్తుంటా బేసిక్ స్ట్రక్చర్ ఏది కాదు అనేసి కోర్ట్ హ్యాస్ టేకెన్ దట్ పవర్ ఇన్ టు దేర్ హ్యాండ్స్. So Indira Gandhi was upset with this. How can a court determine whether this is a basic structure or not when we have the legislature? So Indira Gandhi did not like this, and then she has made subsequent amendments also that we'll discuss when I come to DPSPs versus fundamental rights. But court has upheld, saying that you cannot touch basic structure. Rest of the things you can do. This was the judgment which was given in 1973, and it also said, now look at this, judicial review. What it said, you cannot come under judicial review according to Schedule 9. Now in the Keshwar and the Bharti case, it said that even those things which are there in Schedule 9, you can come to judicial review. Hence, there what we have studied, judicial review, whether they can be subjected to judicial review or not. From April 23rd, from April 24th, 1973, April 24, 1973, all the laws will be open to judicial review until from here, that is our Schedule 9 law. This is the correction. Got it? So this is how it is there. This is how it is there. In 3 cases, this one you have to remember. Since that day, fundamental rights can be amended by the Constitution, but basic structure doctrine is the only restriction. If you are not going against the basic structure, you can do it. Right. This is the thing that it is there. I have one more class. I'll stop here. We will discuss about this bihating component today. So what is your work today? Listen. Go through this again. By heart all the articles from Article 12 to Article 35. And the clarity again I'll ask this. So Article 12 and 13, just read it in the way whatever I said. These 2 things. Third one, you have already completed states, South India states, Kerala, Telangana, Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka. If you have studied Goa. Goa has how many state boundaries? Karnataka
6.
Andhra
5.
Telangana
4.
Tamil Nadu
3.
Kerala
Kerala 2.
Kerala
3. Kerala 2.
2 Kerala 2. So Kerala is 2. Next is Tamil Nadu
3.
Tamil Nadu 3. Andhra
5.
Andhra 5. Next is Telangana
4.
4. Karnataka
6.
6. Goa
2.
2. Even as other these are the things. How many national parks are there in Kerala?
6.
Kerala 6. Tamil Nadu
5.
6 5. Andhra
3.
Andhra
3.
Telangana
3.
Andhra Telangana 3. Tamil Nadu
5.
Kerala
6.
Karnataka
Karnataka 5, sir.
Karnataka 5. Got it. Goa 1. So Goa
1.
Karnataka
5.
5. Telangana
3.
Andhra
3.
Tamil Nadu
5.
Kerala
6.
You remember the national parks. Tomorrow I'll ask order lo pettukunnara north or south edo okati. So remember that this one. After that, Odisha you studied yesterday. You did not study. Okay. So today you do this thing. Recall northeastern states. You remember state capitals would batti kottade. So next northeastern states. You remember everyone. You know here. You know how many borders are there for Mizoram states.
Mizoram 2.
3.
3.
Mizoram 3. Tripura
Tripura 2.
2. Mizoram 3. What are they?
Manipur, Tripura, and Assam.
Assam has how many boundaries? State boundaries?
7.
International boundaries for Assam?
2.
What are
Bhutan
they?
and Bangladesh.
Huh?
Bhutan and
Bhutan and
Bangladesh.
Bangladesh. Sikkim,
Sikkim 1.
state boundary 1. International boundaries?
1.
International boundaries, Sikkim.
3.
What are they?
Bhutan.
Oh, sorry, revise quickly. Yesterday, what I have discussed, northeastern states, and these states go through northeastern states national parks, these national parks. These national parks again you by heart. Today, adding to that, I am giving some more states. Odisha, West Bengal, Bihar, Jharkhand, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh. Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, this belt. Odisha, West Bengal, Bihar, Jharkhand, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh. Prepare this. Tomorrow we'll discuss this. Right. What you have to prepare? State boundaries, international boundaries, along with this national parks here. National parks here. Odisha, West Bengal, Bihar, Jharkhand, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh. You remember this, right? Tomorrow we'll meet. Thanks for joining. Have a great day. Thank you so much, Vikas.